Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first of Sanguine's Savoury streams. So this is going to be the area where I end up making the feast videos because an hour and 17 long cooking video seems a touch excessive. But I still want to do them, and this seems more acceptable.
Well, yeah. The for making a video, you cut down all of the bits in between, and then doing this as a sort of live. Yeah, I could see that.
Also, I just end up talking way too much to be able to cut cleanly. So,
We'll work on that.
In order to have a couple extra people and a couple extra voices going on while I'm cooking, I have two of my friends joining me at the moment, and I might have a couple more join as things go on. So, say hello, Inquisitor.
Hello, Inquisitor.
And Della Haste.
Yo, and hello.
Like I said, I might have a couple others, including I know Weibo said that she wanted to be part of this, so I shot her the link. Depends on if she sees it in time.
Yeah. She's a busy girl. I get it.
Mm-hmm. So, I need to jump right in because this is going to be a full meal. Starting with, I'm going to pop over to the kitchen camera. And in here, I'm going to start my main protein for the night, which is a chicken hind quart and wings. So I already have a preheated cast iron skillet right here. Into that goes my chicken hind quart. There's one wing. And the second wing. That's just going to be sitting in that nice hot pan for a while before getting tossed into the oven to continue roasting. So with that, I'm going to hit it with a bit of that Maldon smoked sea salt that I absolutely love. And I'm just going to let it sit for a quick bit.
So how exactly does sea salt get smoked?
So just like you would smoke anything else, you get the salt crystals, you put them into a smoker with a lot of really dark, flavorful smoke. And over a good bit of time, it ends up imbuing the flavor.
I was gonna say, does it? Because salt isn't as say like porous as meat.
Yep.
So, does it adhere as well as if it would be something like you're smoking meat?
It has a much lighter flavor for the most part, unless you go for really long smokes and really, really dense smoke as you're smoking. So it has a lighter flavor than if you smoked the meat directly.
Okay.
But it still gets a lot of that flavor into the food, which is absolutely amazing. So, in order to make sure that everything kind of finishes at the right time, I'm starting in order of how long it's going to take. The chicken's going to take the longest because it first needs to get its skin going on the stovetop, and then that's going to be bumped over into the oven and allowed to roast at 400 degrees for a while. Then next is, of course, the mashed potatoes. I need to get those started. So, starting with some absolutely beautiful russet potatoes, which are a floury potato rather than a waxy potato. Absolutely amazing for making mash. It is the common baking potato as well.
It's also, they grow large compared to other potatoes, like, say, red or golden.
Yep. So, just go around, peel the potato, make sure that any obvious bad spots are trimmed out. Then that one's going into a bowl of water just to sit for a few moments as I process down this second potato. And then I'm going to be doing a trick that I saw thanks to another cooking channel, and one that has been interacting a fair bit on my videos, which, if you're out there, useless cook, hello. I do watch your videos, and I'm going to be stealing a technique from one of them because it was really good idea. So, rather than doing what I normally do, which is just chunk the potatoes and throw them into water, bring them up to the boil, I'm going to end up slicing them a lot thinner by using a mandolin slicer, which will reduce the cook time, and also you'll see what I end up boiling them in before too much longer, and it'll allow me to impart more flavor into the potatoes by slicing them nice and thin. Because I'm not just going to make a standard mashed potato, this is a feast after all, but my mashed potato will be no more complicated than what many people are used to. Just it'll have that added little bit of flavor. So let me just get rid of the potato peelings. And get my cutting board back out. Whack down my mandolin slicer. And let's see, I forgot to put the blade cover here. You always want to use a blade cover for a mandolin. I ended up guillotining my hand at one point because I didn't have my blade cover and decided I was going to slice anyways. That was a very poor idea on my part.
Yep, I've nicked myself many a times with one of those.
Yeah,
I had no idea that's what that is called, as a mandolin slicer. I didn't realize.
Just like the instrument, effectively, but very different. So I have it set to the thickest option, and I'm just going to quickly work down my potatoes. Oops. Just tossed a segment of potato out. There we go. And with a mandolin slicer like mine, the blade cover has this handy little plunger bit. So as you're going through, you just have to keep a nice consistent downforce so that it's able to keep feeding your potato through. So there's my potatoes, nice and uniformly sliced. I'm throwing those back into water bath for a little bit. This helps keep them from oxidizing. If you've ever spent too long working with potatoes without throwing them in a water bath, you'll notice that they get kind of this grayish brown coloration. That is the oxidation of the starches.
Yep.
So, using 2 potatoes to make my mash tonight. And this also just gets worked through on the mandolin slicer. Oops. Coming out the wrong way.
Oh, see, you got the fancy mandolin.
Yes, I have a nice one.
Yeah, we got the one at work. We got the one that doesn't have the fucking safety thing you're using, so we use our bare hands, which is why I just use the knife for my shit.
Yeah, if you have one that doesn't have a blade cover, like I said, it can become very dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
I ended up a little bit ago, I think I mentioned this on Minions, partially julianing a finger and guillotining another. Because
That sucks.
this slicer is really nice, and it has this blade that can be swapped out. So this is just the standard stage portion. but it has a julienne cut, it has a French fry cut, it has a couple of different options for that blade. And I ended up sliding one finger into the triangle blade, one finger into the julienne blade.
Ouch.
The julienne blade, if I have to pick which one my hand has to go into again, I'm picking the julienne blade because those clean vertical slits healed a hell of a lot quicker than the nasty guillotined cut that I got that just took off a flap of skin.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's the fact that it's a smaller cut, it's a thinner blade.
Yep. So there we go. There's my potato in some cold water. Now let's go back to the kitchen because it's about time for me to turn the chicken and start the next part of the process for the potatoes. So, really hot cast iron pan. You, of course, don't want to come in contact with it. So, using the spatula, just kind of go around the edge, make sure that nothing's stuck down because you want to have that beautiful, beautiful chicken skin as intact as you possibly can. So I'm using a nice, flexible spatula for this. Got a little bit mangled, but not terrible. So you can see that nice coloration on it already. Flip the wings as well. And then I already have my oven preheated. So next thing is open up my oven. And I want to grab the grill weight that I have in there out first and press the wings so that they get a bit more caramelization and coloration.
And so yeah, the term that you're doing right now for the chickens, you're browning the chicken, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm browning or crisping the skin. It goes by a number of things, but yes, it is just effectively browning chicken or searing the
outer layer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the grill weight has just been sitting in the oven as it heats up. So that is a 400 degree grill weight that just went on top of the chicken. And that all gets pushed into the oven to start roasting away. So now then, I mentioned to you guys before starting this that one of the things that I wanted to make sure I mentioned today is an old rule when it came to whether you want to throw something into already boiling water or whether you want to bring it up to the boil with whatever you're using to cook it. And the rule is if it grows in the ground, then you bring up to a boil. So any root vegetables, you bring up to the boil.
Any roots, tubers,
bring up to the boil. If it's an animal, throw in already boiling water. Which, when you're making a broth with an animal carcass, what you tend to do is you'll roast the carcass first. And then you'll start boiling. You'll get the first boil done. The first boil is the one that produces a lot of scum and is disgusting looking. So you'll then pour off that first boil's water. Just get rid of it. Get rid of the scum, save the carcass. Then you'll get another pot of water going. You'll throw in whatever roots you're using, any aromatics you're using. You'll get those going. And then once you have the water up to a boil, you'll throw back in the carcass. And do your second boil, which actually produces your broth. So, as you've no doubt noticed, this is not just water that I'm putting in kale. Because I want to give a bit more flavor to the potatoes that are going to become my mashed potatoes. So this is a really flavorful chicken stock that I've watered down slightly. It's about 2-to-1 stock to water.
Mm-hmm.
And that will just impart that lovely chicken stock flavor. And I have this on a fairly high heat, medium high at the moment. I'm going to let that come up to the boil.
So it may be a bit of jumping ahead here, but when you thicken your mashed potatoes, do you use milk?
I use cream, heavy cream.
Oh, okay, heavy cream. That's even better. All right.
Yep.
Because a lot of people, when they take the potatoes out, they just, mix them. They mash them that way, and then they don't really add anything. And so if you add like a dairy product, it actually fluffs up the potatoes and makes them taste a lot better.
Yep, I'll be using heavy cream and lots of butter. With a little bit of salt because that broth and water solution that I have going is already salted. It's not quite sea salt levels because I want the broth flavor to come out more than the salt flavor.
Yeah.
But it is nicely salted. So that's 2 parts of this feast already started. Now let's continue on, because just a main and a side dish, that isn't much of a feast now, is it?
Mm-mm.
But if I add another side dish, and this one includes bacon, now that's going in the right direction, I think. So back at my work surface with my cutting board, I'm going to pull out 4 good rashers of thick cut applewood smoked bacon. And I'm going to start processing these down using my nice little cleaver. So for this, I want it cut into about medium-sized, bite-sized pieces. And I'm just going to work through the entire thing of bacon. There we go. Those should be good. And then you don't want your bacon to really clump up badly, so you want to take the time to separate out the bacon. At least for this process. I'll show you guys at some point my faked thick cut smoked pork belly trick that just uses bacon compressed down, and it goes amazing on rice bowls, where you just want that added little bit of salty, smoky, fatty goodness. But you don't have a good smoked pork belly, you just have already sliced up rashers of bacon. So once you get all of these apart, these will be set to the side for a couple moments, and we'll start processing down the other ingredients that are going to become part of the saute that I'm going to make with this. So I have some kale, because kale is one of those things that a lot of people want to eat because they hear about how good it is for you and how it's an important thing to include in your diet, but it tastes god-awful.
I have never eaten kale, and I probably never will. Fuck the hippies. I don't care.
Well, if you ever decide to eat kale, you should do it the way that I do it. And you can do this with other types of greens as well. Mustard greens go amazing with this. Chard, anything like that. Any dark leafy green works amazing with this.
The only green leaf I eat is spinach.
I eat romaine, lettuce, and salads and stuff. Iceberg
Spinach
too,
is absolutely delicious, and this will become a hot salad effectively, which you can do with spinach. You just add the spinach much later than you would add the dark leafy green. Let's see. We get another knife out, and I'll use this knife. Okay, so this knife is a little bit dull. I'm just going to quickly give it a going over. There we go. And now that dark leafy green that I was mentioning. When you're dealing with greens, dark leafy greens in particular, they have woody stalks in the center. So you want to grab a good-sized handful of your green. It'll look like way too much at this point, but given how much greens wilt down, it will not end up all that much.
Yeah, that's one thing that, leafy greens definitely do wilt down whenever you put them in something hot. That's the reason why they're usually served cold. But
Which is one of the worst ways. Just because they stand up so bright, you want to give them more flavor. You want to have other things play against them, because dark leafy greens are particularly bitter.
Mhm.
Whereas if you work them into the right dishes, that bitterness kind of melts away, and you just get this nice flavor that plays well with everything else.
what's the difference with something like an egg roll and a salad?
Yep.
Because an egg roll, is use cabbage, and cabbage is, a heavy leafy green.
So just go through, remove the leaves from that woody stalk, which you can do by hand. You can use a knife. There's a number of devices that you can use. I just do it by hand. It's easy. It's quicker than if I tried to pull out any of the devices, because that's not a device that you would have to hand. That's something that you would store away and then pull out every so often. Just rip them off the stalks by hand. It's quick, it's easy, not a problem. And then you just want to bunch everything up so that you're able to slice. And Delahaye, since you work in a kitchen, you're probably slightly cringing at my knife skills.
No. I mean, I don't do the whole use the knuckles thing either. It doesn't work for me. It's very uncomfortable, and it takes me a lot longer, and it's a lot more risky for me when I do that. So I just do the dangerous way, and I actually keep my fingers pretty pointed out.
Okay.
In fact, I was scaring one of the girls earlier today during my half shift. She was talking to me, and I was slicing up bacon like paper thin, and I'm looking her in the eyes as we're conversing, and I'm slicing up bacon that way.
Nice. So, as you guys can see back in my kitchen, the pot of broth and potatoes has started to bubble away. And I have a second skillet. Let me see if I can angle the camera enough to get that second skillet more in view. I'll have to angle it manually. There we go. So I have the second skillet set up that is currently on medium high heat. I'm going to knock that down. This is my crappier burner, so it takes a little bit longer and you have to crank the heat a little bit higher. Most of my cooking on my primary burner is done with only medium low. And that's because cast iron, the way that you want to use cast iron is you want to let it heat up slow. It gets nice and hot. Retains that heat ridiculously. And just does absolutely amazing things to any food that you throw in. So, throw the bacon in, get it moving around. And you just want to start crisping up the bacon a little bit. Let some of that fat, that absolutely amazing bacon fat, smoky, salty goodness start to render out. Because that is going to be the brunt of what makes the kale actually edible. So now I have 3 things going. And that's a much better start to a feast. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
And hello, Prospero.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
Not a problem. So, just to catch you up on what's going on, Prospero, I have chicken hind quart and wings roasting away in my oven with some Maldon smoked sea salt sprinkled over the top. I have just on my stove top, a little bit higher, let me angle up, a pot of stock that was slightly reduced or slightly diluted with some water just to increase the volume, and some thinly sliced potatoes bubbling away there. And I mentioned how when it's something that grows in the ground you want to bring up to the boil, you don't want to start off at a boil.
Good.
Then that's the bacon that is currently going away in my cast iron skillet. Then I have some dark leafy greens, some kale, sliced up on my cutting board over here. That's going to get tossed into that bacon once it's rendered down a fair bit. And let me start working on another portion of this feast. Because this is all going fine and dandy, but it's still not quite a feast. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, what's a proper feast without an absolutely amazing dessert, right?
Boring.
So, tonight, the dessert that I'm going to be quickly whacking together is some seared pineapple.
Ooh.
Ew.
That's going to go just at the end of everything else, finishing up cooking. But I need to start prepping it right now because it takes some time to break down a pineapple.
That it does.
So let me figure out what knife I want to use for this right now.
Break it down all you want. Still not going to make it taste good. Sorry. I don't like pineapple. That's just me.
More for me.
Go. You can have my share too.
Thank you. Oh, yay. This is like a bounty.
It's going to be a pineapple that's done through with some honey glaze and topped off with a little bit of cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
So I have the honey glaze like thing already set up. And damn it, fetch. Sorry about the noise, that should have been silence.
Ring.
And let me get rid of this. Just need to solve a quick math problem. then dismiss my second alarm as well.
Well, 1 + 1 = 2.
I was like, "You're really the quick math problem." I always do that in the kitchen.
In order to silence my alarms, I found that when I was in college, I could sleep through a normal alarm. And if I didn't sleep through a normal alarm, what I would be able to do is, while I'm asleep, my body had enough sense to it that it could reach over and disarm an alarm.
Yes.
So I started making my alarms force me to do math, thinking that that would be enough to wake me up.
Nah.
And then I started having to increase the difficulty of the math problems because apparently still passed out me had enough wherewithal to do really simple math problems. So I ended up having to do algebra or 3-digit multiplications and shit like that in order to make sure I was actually up. And
You know what I did? I set another alarm and put it across the room. A really loud, obnoxious, old-fashioned alarm clock. I mean, that clank, 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 like a fire bell.
Yep.
And that was the guaranteed way that I wouldn't just reach over and slap the alarm and turn it off.
See, the problem that I had was I only had one thing that could be an alarm for me, and that was myself. And I was too lazy to go out and buy another alarm of some sort.
I had a hideous hot pink little clock that had been given me as a birthday gift when I was like 9 that had lived in a drawer. And I finally took it out and put it to use. I mean, it was a wind-up clock alarm, literally. But the thing made just the proper amount of obnoxious noise.
Okay, so for those of you who aren't disgusted by pineapple, the way that you determine if pineapple's good is you grab one of the center leaves, and if it pulls right out, it's right. If it doesn't pull right out, then it's not right. And you need to give it a bit of time. It'll soften and sweeten just a little bit more, and you'll be good to go. So, in order to process this down, first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take the tip off. And now I'm just going to slice on down. Get rid of the outside. That one was a bit thicker than I wanted. Oh well, I can trim that off and get that back. Just to remove the outside, because that will not be tasty. Even dipped in honey and seared off, that will still be rather unpleasant texture. So just trim it until it looks good to you. This looks fairly decent. And then I'm going to have this cut off the tail. It's good to go. Cut off the tail. It's good to go. Let me clean up my cutting board a little bit by getting rid of some of this. Now then, I want to get some nice pineapple steaks out of this. So what I'm going to do is find the center line and cut just to the side of it. Slice off another segment. This one I'm just going to...
So you grill pineapple as wedges?
Paste. I grill it as wedges. I grill it as rings. It depends on what sort of presentation I want. Today, I want to have a somewhat wedge-like, somewhat steak-like cut to it. So that's the center line with not much else to it. That is ridiculously woody. I just get rid of it. And then slice down that way, slice down that way. And this one, I'm just snacking on. Because it's damn good pineapple. Mm. Same thing. Find the central stalk. Trim to one side. Trim to the other. And then figure out how far down it goes. And trim the back off of it. So now I have my nice big meaty chunks of pineapple. Come back in here, mix the bacon around so it doesn't end up sticking and burning. The potatoes should be good to come off. So let me turn that down. So potatoes off to the side. Move this over. Get that going on my better burner. And start getting another important process to this meal going, which is when you're making a mashed potato, you don't want to add cold cream or cold milk or cold butter to your potatoes. It'll make it really gloopy, and that is the technical term. So what I'm going to be doing is pouring some heavy cream and putting a good pat of butter into this over here so that can come to temperature. And you just want to keep an eye on it, make sure that you don't boil your cream.
Ugh, yeah.
You don't want to scald it. You just want it to be warmed up, and you want your butter melted in. That's all you're looking for when it comes to that pot of cream and butter. Okay, let me readjust the camera a little bit so that you can see the bacon, because that's the more impressive portion of it. And let me click up in the view of that a little bit. There we go. So, now back to the pineapple. So I have it all sliced up. I have it beautiful looking. But I mentioned that honey sauce that I'm going to be pouring over it. I've already mixed up the honey. It's about a 2-to-1 honey to water. So it flows a bit nicer than honey does, but it's still nice and viscous. So what you want is you want a container that you can throw your pineapple in, because you're going to want to toss the pineapple around in that honey, get it nice and coated, and then just let it sit until you're ready for it. So in with that honey, and when I mixed this up, it was a bit of warm water and then about twice as much honey. Using warm water, of course, just makes it easier to
Coat it, yeah.
coat it.
It's so thick. Otherwise, it would be actually, the sugars would burn.
Mm-hmm. And unlike most things, you actually kind of want a little bit, not much, but just a little bit of that almost burnt taste because
Yeah, a little seared taste, but not. You don't want burnt sugar.
this you can go a little bit further than just a straight sear, because that bitterness actually works with the pineapple. You don't get much of it, just little risen bits. So
Little
think kind of like burnt
char.
ends almost.
Little char.
Yep. So just toss that around, get the
Carbon, the new seasoning.
nice pineapple coated up. And you can do this with pineapple cut up in whatever way you want. You can cut it in rings. You can just buy some jarred pineapple or whatnot in syrup. Toss it in the same 1 to 2 honey mixture. So I'm getting a bit of that bacon fat rendering out. Some bits are getting crispy. Some bits are still cooking. And that's just because I started on that one bad burner that doesn't heat up the most consistent. But this is good enough to start throwing the kale in. Because you want this to wilt down, you want this to take on some of that bacony, salty goodness. Try to escape. And just try to mix that round, knock it down in. Let it get coated in that bacon fat that's already rendered out. More will continue coming.
That is what she said.
But more bacon fat will continue coming. I'm now questioning your sexual proclivities.
Well, you know, some people really enjoy food sex. Just saying.
God, don't.
I suppose since I do call my, or do tag all of my videos with the tags food porn, I should be less surprised about that.
Right, right.
Fair point.
So, you don't want to allow any of this to burn, so you want to keep giving it a good stir around every so often. And just let everything marry together. This is going to become kind of like a hot salad almost. Because I'm going to be hitting this with a little bit of balsamic vinegar because that acidity really helps with the bitterness as well. But that's good for right now. I have my potatoes. So let me ask you guys, how do you prefer doing your potatoes? Because I have a way that I absolutely know I love more than every other way when it comes to getting really good creamy mashed potatoes. Do you just use a normal stick masher? Do you?
No, I have a set of beaters. It took me a while to find a set that worked as well as the one that finally gave up the ghost until 2010. You talk about a heavy set of beaters. My mother got as a wedding present in 1950. But I mean that the motor on that thing was just incredible. The thing weighed a ton. But the flat beaters, not the whiskey looking ones, because those just you end up with lumps everywhere. I finally
get almost doughy texture as well.
Yeah, I found a set that works reasonably well. I've used a stand blender. Not a stand blender, a stand beater, like a, what I mean. Yeah, thank you. The problem is that the mess takes longer to clean up than cooking the potatoes and everything else.
Mhm.
So I tend to just stick with a hand mixer. I've done an immersion blender. And that's worked pretty well. On a smaller batch, that's fine. If it's like Thanksgiving making 12 servings thing, I do the hand mixer.
Okay.
And
What
say,
about you guys?
I have both. I have a stand mixer that I do just for convenience,
Mm-hmm.
and then I also have a hand mash tool.
Ricing can work well too, believe it or not.
I was getting disappointed. I was really hoping that Della would be the one to save it, but Prospero did pull out in the end, so I use ricers. I absolutely love having mashed potato that's been riced. It becomes just such a pleasant texture to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be ricing the potatoes.
Cool.
And I have two different ricers at my apartment.
I'm stunned.
I have probably one of the best stocked kitchens that any 20-something man in the U.S. has.
I think so.
So,
You know what hurts my heart the most though is that you don't get to cook with gas.
yeah, I really wish that I was able to, but unfortunately, I did not have the option.
Yeah.
Neither do I.
It's oof. You know, once you cook with gas, you'll going back to electric is just
Oh, I know.
oh, it's so annoying because you just have to baby things and burner swap and
Yep.
it's
Let's put it this way, though. I do. There is one benefit to it. One bill.
yeah, there's that. But
So
see,
I just gave the kale and bacon a little bit of a taste,
Mm-hmm.
and it's missing some salt. So this is a point where you want to doctor as you go, taste everything you cook. I'm sprinkling on 2 small pinches of that smoked Maldon sea salt.
Are you doing it like Salt Bay, bouncing off your forearm?
No, fuck that. I just do it standard.
I know
No-
he just
no
lacks flair, doesn't
No
he?
flare. Yeah.
Over the shoulder, kick it up with the sole of your foot. Beef, there it goes.
Mm-hmm.
Let me quickly tell Weibo that this is still going.
Oh gosh. Hey Eve.
Hi.
Hello, Eve.
Welcome to the the bleachers where we get to drool.
Is it splash zone?
I forgot one thing that I want to toss in, and that is I'm going to roast up some mushrooms real quick. So just going to grab those and throw those in with the chicken that's currently roasting away. I'll let these just become fantastic. So I'm just grabbing 3 nice large Bella mushrooms.
Porta?
Bella, not Berta.
Porta.
Portobello, baby bellas.
Yep. Baby Bella.
I love those.
I was doing a play on words, but apparently it fell short.
So, just to let you guys see what the chicken's looking like now, it's about to come out, but I'm going to give it just a little bit longer. Boom. That's what it looks like. That's going back into the oven. Those mushrooms get a little bit of coloration on them. this mixing around. That's almost done. Turn down the heat on that. The cream and butter has melted together, which means I need to start the final bit of this meal, other than the pineapple, which is, of course, dessert. And that, I'm going to move this entirely off the heat, because that skillet will have enough heat. And let me grab this one, throw that down. Then I'm cheating for my gravy tonight, because I could go through the entire process of making a gravy from scratch. But this is simple as sexy, isn't it?
Yes.
So I'm going to go for the very simple way of choose a broth that you really like the flavor of. Get that into a pan. This is going to reduce down a bit. And I'm going to be doctoring it up as I go. So now I have the gravy going, which is one of the last things that I needed to do.
Gravy.
And for the gravy, just using the chicken stock isn't. I know this is simple as sexy, but part of simple as sexy is making it sure that it's nice and sexy, right? So I have the gravy going by just using some really good chicken stock that I'm reducing. I'm going to add some of that black garlic that I absolutely love, but I haven't thrown in anything. So that's going in there, so that that can perfume the rest of it. Add another bit of flavor. The mushrooms that are currently roasting, when those are roasted enough for me, are also going to get tossed into this. And then I'm going to be thickening with a butter and flour combination, and some heavy cream as well, just to make it particularly unctuous and delicious. So, back to making the potatoes. I already have the potatoes boiled up in that absolutely beautiful, beautiful broth and slight bit of water just to add some volume. That was salted up. So the little bits of potato have absorbed a lot of that flavor. Now I just need to quickly strain my potato. That way it's not too much liquid. Let me quickly go over to my sink and do that. I'm not going to quite pour out all the liquid though. I'm saving just a little bit. That way, with the cream that I'm going to add, I can also add a little bit of the broth that I use to cook. Make sure that this won't burn a hole in my desk, and it won't. So there's the potatoes. And now then, let me start ricing these sons of bitches. So just throw a good amount of potato in there. Slap on the top bit of my ricer. Give a squeeze. Open up. Throw some more potato in. There we go. Give another good squeeze. More potato. And this just gives you a really consistent mash, because every bit of potato is going through the mesh at the bottom. And it's nice and small, so when you add everything else, it'll just be ridiculously good. Some of the creamiest, most delicious potatoes that you've ever had. And because I cooked them in a bit of that chicken stock that I'm now making the gravy out of, oh, they'll have an absolutely ridiculous flavor.
You ain't taking me back to the Slam-a-John law. Sorry.
So the weather returned to raining bullets in Chicago, I take it?
Well, it never stopped. The lead hail is a constant weather worry.
And these potatoes are so damn good, I'm just eating them as they fall out, if they fall out, because I'm not going to waste these.
Well, yeah. They're already boiled, so.
Yep. And they're boiled in that delicious, delicious stock. Quickly mix around that cream and butter. So in the last little bits of potato to be rice. And there we go. Scrape this clean so that I get as much of this as I can. There's a little bit that escaped the ricing, so.
Escape the ricin? Look out, Sanguine, they're trying to poison you!
Oh. Yeah, it's like I was listening to Peter Almond streaming yesterday, and Cynical Lindsay said I was rushing around getting ready for whatever, and I was like, "Oh my God, a bot!" She's like, "What?" I said you were rushing. We, the dropping of G's that we
Just
some of us do. It's
Just adding that little bit of reserved cooking stock to the potato. Now then, I have my cream and my butter melted together. So that's going to be poured in. And these are going to be ridiculously creamy potatoes. I love them this way. And then we just need to mix to incorporate everything. So this almost will become like a puree. And there's an amazing way of doing potatoes that is very similar, but does actually end up as a puree. And you add in a lot of cheese and other things to just make it ooey gooey, unctuous goodness.
Gooey gooey.
Yep.
He likes it. Sorry, it just reminds me of, cereal commercials from the 80s or something.
Yep.
Mikey, he likes it.
Okay. And that is almost entirely incorporated. It'll firm up a little bit as it cools down, but it'll be amazing all the same. And always, always, always. Oh, taste everything that you make. Because it was cooked in that chicken stock, it already has that flavor. Like it's been hit with a good amount of gravy.
Chickeny, stocky stuff.
Yep. So, when it does actually get the gravy that I'm making, oh god, that's going to be absolutely insane amount of flavor. So the chicken has been in for more than enough time. Now you can pull that out, put it on a plate. Anytime that you cook meat, it needs some time to rest. So I'm just going to set that in the back, let it rest up so that I don't have to worry about it and it's not in the way. A little strip of skin from the bottom that is going to be the bit that I taste because no way in hell I'm letting a piece of skin get away. And that is delicious. So the mushrooms are going back in for just a little bit longer. They're already getting some beautiful coloration on them. But just want a bit more there. Chicken stock is reducing nicely, deepening down in color. So the way that you thicken with butter and flour is you want to mix up about a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you're making enough, then you can do 1 tablespoon of each. If you're making a small amount, do a teaspoon of each or so. But this is something that you kind of always want to mix just a little bit more than you need.
Speaking, by the way, of oh god, I had it and then I lost it. Anyway, a spoon that like button, y'all.
Ah, yes. Thank you for mentioning that because I have completely forgotten that I'm supposed to be showing myself at the same time, aren't I?
Yeah.
So I put in just a little bit more than a teaspoon and a half of flour. So throwing in a comparable amount of butter into this bowl over here. And then this, I really should have grabbed a fork for. So let me quickly change up my utensils. Because what you want to do is you want to mash this together into a nice, smooth consistency. Make sure that you get all the flour and the butter incorporated. It's that starch and fat complex that makes this be able to thicken everything that you need it to thicken. Just when you're using a flour-based thickener, you have to make sure that you cook it out a fair bit. So this is already starting to look the right consistency. Nice and smooth. No obvious signs of flour left floating around in it. So when I get to the point where I'm thickening up the gravy, this is good to go. You'll just add a little bit of this, let it cook down a bit, add a little bit more, let it cook down a bit until you get fairly thick, because then you're going to be adding the cream to it, which will bring back up some of the liquid level and just make it absolutely delicious. Now then, let's take another peek at the mushrooms. They should be good by now. So let me grab a knife. And I'll use the same knife that I used to slice up the kale, slice up the mushrooms. And they're really hot. So there are the 3 nice mushrooms that I roasted up a bit. Just going to slice into these so I can incorporate them into the gravy that I'm making. I like some nice meaty chunks of them. You can slice them as thin or as thick as you like. I'm just giving a quick chop. And these are insanely hot, so you can roast them up a little bit beforehand and give them time to cool if you don't want to test how asbestos your fingers have become. But, oh god, these are going to be delicious. So there's 2 of them done, and now just the 3rd. And any of the juice that's running out of them right now as I do this is going to also get poured into that sauce. And what I'm going to be doing is that gravy that I've had reducing in the one pan, that shit's going into the cast iron that just came out of the oven that had the chicken roast in it. So I can get some of that additional flavor.
Is that a technical cooking term? That shit's going into that pan that just came out of the oven?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so.
I only use the most technical of terms.
Roast that bitch in the fucking oven and shit.
Exactly. And the smell of the broth and that garlic as it hit that hot pan, just wafting up. Oh, that's good. Move that over to the good burner. And now then, this you want to stir around, kind of scraping the bottom as you stir, because that'll get up those nice little flavorful bits that are left in the bottom of the pan after you roast up a piece of meat. I'm going to try to be smart and remember that this pan just came out of the oven. It is already difficult to do so because I've wanted to grab this handle like 3 times. But I'm going to resist the urge to burn myself.
We hear Sanguine all of a sudden just start yelling, "Son of a bitch, motherfucker!" We all know what happened.
Oh no, the first sign will be you'll see my fucking meat hook come into frame, just grab a hold of the handle, start tossing it, and then just a shit as I set it down. And what I'm going to do to kind of try to prevent that is I'm just going to keep this hand wrapped in a tea. So, mushrooms, gravy, the broth, reducing down beautifully. I don't want this to carry on for too terribly much longer. So, I'm going to start adding in my thickening agent. You want to add a bit of it at a time, and then you want to incorporate it.
So what are you using for your thickening agent?
That butter and flour combination that I just
Okay,
mixed.
you're making a roux.
Yep. So whisk that in, get that going. Like I said, anytime that you use a flour combination, you need to let some of that flour cook off. So you want to keep this on heat, keep it going.
Sorry to interrupt, Sanguine, but I have to bounce. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting me to.
In the professionals once I finish.
Okie dokie.
How
for inviting me.
very dare you, Eve? How very dare
Yeah, sorry, I forgot about something I gotta go do.
you? That's fine.
See you guys later.
See ya.
Good one. Add a little bit more of this. So this should give it a nice shine to the sauce as you go as well. From that butter mixed in and that little bit of chicken fat that was in the bottom of the pan from the roasting. And get just this absolutely beautiful shot. And this is about to the point where I want it. Stepping in a little bit more. And then I'm going to reduce the temperature a bit. So when it starts getting those nice, thick-looking bubbles to it, that's a good sign that it's getting good. And the fact that it's starting to coat a spoon is a good sign. You want it to reduce a little bit more, but you don't want it to go too quickly, which is why I reduce the temperature. So let me go back to the dark leafy green. Let me quickly finish that up all the way. Because everything tastes amazing there. It's just missing that bit of acid. So you can use whatever type of vinegar you like. You can use a balsamic, you can use a white balsamic, you can use apple, anything that just adds that nice note of acidity and will work with everything else. The balsamic will go amazing. Balsamic. And just sprinkle that in. Mix that round. And you have your sauteed kale, bacon, and the smell of that hitting the still warm cast iron, beautifully cooked kale and bacon. Oh, that's good shit. So that's going to get plated up next to the chicken. And like I said, taste everything at every step, which is why I keep seeing my left hand snatch away from everything that I'm doing. Let me that off and we'll back up. There we go. And that looks about right. So, going to add some of that heavy cream. A nice healthy splash. This is again something that is entirely however creamy you want this sauce to be. Add as much cream as it takes. I like it a kind of medium brown color. Kind of like that. Just going to let this reduce just a tiny bit more, and that's going to be done. So now the final bit of this dish is going to be that pineapple. So you want to get a nice hot skillet going for it. Gravy just needs to bubble a little bit. So, do you guys have any questions about any of the approaches or anything that I'm doing, anything that I'm adding?
No, you explained it very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go with the chicken,
Bacon and kale.
bacon and kale, and that basalt.
That's tasty looking, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not liking the fact that we don't have transporters
There
and food replicators.
you go.
Like I said, the way that I did the kale today is one of the few ways I found that make kale actually taste good.
Shit. Fuck that up.
Because kale in and of itself is god awful.
I don't know. I'll have to send you the recipe that America's Test Kitchen came up with for colcannon that uses kale.
Oh, colcannon makes pretty much anything tasty.
Well, yeah, but this one was I actually added bacon grease to the kale because I think bacon grease sweetens the greens.
Yep. Okay, so this scrape that in a moment, but a nice healthy mug of gravy, right?
Mmm.
Okay, then I'm using the same cast iron that I used to make the bacon and kale. So what I need to do is scrape this clean a little bit. For scraping my cast iron, I use a chainmail scraper, mainly because it can be used at whatever temperature I so decide to scrape my pan at. In this case, very, very fucking hot.
Another technical term.
And when I scrape it really hot, I always make sure that I'm not dumb enough to just plunk my hand down on top of chainmail scrubber. I make sure that I have paper towel in between my hand and the burning hot metal.
Yeah.
Now then, these beautiful, beautiful bits of pineapple that I had earlier. So what I'm first going to do is just going to spray some oil on the thing. Give that a moment. Sauce, pineapple, right down in onto the heat. Now, as big as my cast iron skillet is, it can't quite fit all the pineapple, so you have to be patient. Let part of it cook, then throw in the rest. And because this is pineapple, You don't have to wait until it's cooked all the way through, unlike chicken or beef or anything meat-based. So all you're really looking for is that coloration, which allows you to use far hotter temperatures than you would use for meat, because you're just looking for color. And once that color's done, those come out, and you're good to eat them. Let me actually start using the fork I'm going to be eating with, rather than just dirtying a bunch of other forks. So there you can see some of the coloration on the pineapple. This one's probably the best example at the moment. Get that up close to the camera. You guys see that? That nice golden brown color on it. That's what you're looking for. You also want a couple segments that are darker than that golden brown. Almost looking like it's burnt, but it's just adding that slight bit of bitter that goes so well with pineapple. So that's another good thing. You just keep on turning the pineapple until all its sides are nice and beautifully caramelized. And once that's done, you can throw in additional spears in here. Let me swap over to this view. Actually, not. I'll make it so that you can see both. And if you like pineapple, this is one of the best ways to have it.
Mm.
And what I'm going to do, there's an absolutely beautiful look at it. The caramelized taste of the honey and just the natural juices from the pineapple. Oh, so good. Hit this with a little bit of cinnamon, and it's an amazing dessert to have after a nice, big, healthy meal. So what do you guys think? That a good way to end this? Should I be signing off now? Or wait until I have this completely plated up?
I would say wait until you have everything plated up, and then you
Yeah.
can sign off.
Okay.
Give them the full visual experience.
Exactly.
So what I'll do is once these four are done, I'll get them plated up, get them hit with that little bit of cinnamon, and show off. That looks good right now. Okay. I'll take direct heat right there and get my cinnamon.
I kind of feel like a tattoo artist here trying to paint these freehand. It's the sort of thing. It's like I can't. I'm trying to paint on such a small surface that the only way I can get it is to stipple it.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. Yes.
There's the full feast. So,
Nice.
just to walk everyone through what it is again, roasted chicken, just done very simply with some maldon, smoked sea salt, the kale, bacon, balsamic, saute / hot salad. Absolutely beautiful. Caramelized pineapple spears, or in this case, more of a steak. That amazingly creamy, delicious mash, and a nice big cup of gravy, which let me pour some of that over the mash.
Nom nom.
But
That pineapple looks glorious.
just
All of it
adds
looks wonderful.
exactly what the mash needs. You can pour it over the chicken. You can pour it pretty much over everything except the pineapple. That would be fucking weird.
Yeah. Another technical term.
But everything else, it'll be amazing over. So with that, hopefully you guys all try to make this yourselves or take inspiration from Simple Sexy. I'll have one more video out in the Simple as Sexy series, hopefully tomorrow, and that's going to be the garlic bread and cheese bread video. Sorry that that's a week late. My computer died last week, so
Oh no.
had to get a replacement before I could do this stream and finish up making the Simple as Sexy garlic bread and cheese bread video. So have a good one all, and again, I implore you all, experiment. Try different foods, try different flavors, try different combinations. But also don't forget that just a couple of ingredients, just a handful, can make something absolutely delicious. Have a good night, all.
Take
Bye.
care, everyone.
Bye.